Hello, I'm Tracy Grimshaw. Welcome to A Current Affair. We begin with startling new revelations in a case that's etched in Australian criminal history. Almost 50 years ago, the Beaumont children, Jane, Grant and Arna, set off for a day at the beach, never to be seen again. Tonight, fresh claims into their disappearance that could reopen the investigation.
Could this
It is by far the best information that I've seen.
be it?
He knew where the bodies of the children were.
47 years after they went missing,
The information we got back was quite startling.
the former case detectives and the new evidence.
There's nothing better information that's come forward than what's been put forward now, for sure.
The alleged abductor,
And boy, isn't there a resemblance between this man and that identikit photo?
Absolutely.
and could this factory be the final resting place of the missing Beaumont children?
He said that they were in the pit.
It remains one of Australia's greatest mysteries. What happened to the Beaumont kids? Australia Day, 1966, and the parents of 9-year-old Jane, Arna, aged 7, and 4-year-old Grant have allowed them to catch a bus to an Adelaide beach.
Still a huge crowd. It was well over 100 degrees, and the place was really packed out. In the CIB office, we only
Former
had one
detectives
train
Mostyn Matters and Bill Hayes have come back to where it all began. You see, on that day nearly 50 years ago, Mostyn received the call from a frantic Mrs. Beaumont saying her children had not come home. He headed a search for 3 lost kiddies.
I know many all over Australia really feel for us. Well, we just got to just wait and hope and pray.
But all these years on, it remains one of the greatest unsolved cases, cruelly bogged down by scores of false leads. Police searched dams, dug up buildings, listened to clairvoyance, and followed every reported sighting here and overseas.
Bizarre abduction theories ranging from white slavers to flying saucers.
They all came to nothing. Until now.
It really rang alarm bells for us.
7 years ago, on the 40th anniversary of the children's disappearance, author Alan Whitaker wrote about the case. And soon after his book was published, a woman knocked on his door with startling news.
Who said that her father-in-law was involved in the disappearance of the Beaumont children.
She alleged the man was a pedophile who lived just around the corner from where the children disappeared and had a fetish for wearing satin.
He had abused his own son, and his trigger was satin pyjamas. And it was well known within the family ranks. This was verified by a number of cousins and a number of other family members.
Alan and co-author Stuart Mullins called in the former cops.
I was cynical. I told them when they contacted me for some assistance that I would do everything that I could possibly do to show that what they were saying was wrong.
Mostyn and Bill were tired of the theories, but Bill went off to interview this woman's ex-husband, the son of the Satin Man.
He told me that his father was a pedophile. The description of his father fitted very closely to the description given of the man seen playing with the children. His father had a habit of giving out pound notes to people.
And this son of the Satin Man, Warwick, said that he knew that the children had been buried in a factory complex that the father used to own.
We have never had a potential crime scene. We've never had a name. So for those 2 things alone, discounting all the rest of the stuff, it is by far the best information that I've seen.
Here's what the authors and former police officers say may have happened and should now be investigated. There's no debate. The Beaumont children were seen playing with a man here in Collie Reserve and then walked in that direction. The children then went to Wenzel's Bakery, once just over there, but now long gone. They paid for it with a £1 note, but their mother had never given them that much money. And then they left, never to be seen again. Here's where the new theory kicks in. Nearby there are a few quiet laneways, providing perfect cover, you could say, and one of them leads to where the Saturn Man once lived. We won't identify it, someone else lives there now, but it's around here, just 100 metres from Collie Reserve and the bakery, a triangle where 3 children disappeared nearly half a century ago.
To us, it was like the Bermuda Triangle of the crime. Everything that is unknown about this crime happened in that triangle.
Including the backyard of the Saturn Man's house.
This is the first time, Brady, we've had a witness who says that he saw the children in the backyard of a house not far from here on the day in question.
Not only did the man tell this former military and police investigator that he saw the kids in his father's backyard, but that he saw his father load up his car soon after and drive off.
He told me he was taking them to a place at a factory that the father owned, where he had a cottage that he used to store his dresses and his fetish material.
That factory is still operating today. The son then had one last chilling revelation on what happened to the kids.
His exact words were, "They are in the sandpit, Bill."
The former factory sandpit is today a car park covered in layers of bitumen and concrete. But the story wasn't finished. Soon after the man passed away and before his widow sold up, the investigators knocked on the door and declared what they had. The widow invited them in to look around.
Being shown around the house into the place where he used as a workshop.
And there, covered in dust in a corner, was a child's white purse sitting on a shelf.
This purse was definitely from the 1960s, but it was in pristine condition.
Jane was carrying a small white purse on the day that she went missing.
When the widow was questioned about the purse, they were told to leave.
Research also tells us that people who prey on children and serial killers and murderers often keep trophies.
And finally, the tape recording of the interview with the man's son was given to a polygraph expert who determined
he was reliving what he had actually seen on that day.
Why has he never spoken of this before?
I've asked myself the same question. I asked him the question. He had spoken about it before. He'd spoken about it to his former wife while they were married, and he spoke to his son about it. He's also spoken to one of the authors about it, and then spoke to me about it on 2 occasions. So he has spoken about it, but...
Did his story ever change?
No, there was no deviation.
For their part, the authors have documented everything in their new book, The Saturn Man.
In the book, we've called him under another name because we don't want there to be a public firestorm over this. We don't want the family being hounded. We want it tested in a court of law. And that's why we decided to go with pseudonyms.
This man was not only a multi-millionaire, but he had an Order of Australia medal.
He's very wealthy, very well connected in Adelaide, a very successful businessman.
The Beaumont parents separated a few years after the children disappeared. They still live not far from the original family home, and Mostyn still keeps in contact with them.
I think he's just had enough of it. He just wanted to be left alone.
But before they pass, these detectives say they and the children deserve one last investigation.
We can't dismiss it. In 47 years, we've only had flaky cookie information. Here we have something that's much less than that. We have something that does seem to have substance.
It certainly does seem to, and incredibly, there has never been an inquest into what happened to the Beaumont children. The investigators in our story would like to see a coronial inquest finally held so these new allegations can be examined.